nonprofit established in 2007 with the goal of promoting health and education in resource-poor communities. We have many projects that we've worked on over the years. Currently, these are our main projects. We have a home hospice program in Nepal. We started this a little over a year ago. It was in the works for a little while longer than that, but we've been serving patients since 2016. We've served 80 patients and their families in Nepal, and it costs us less than $25 a day to operate. We also opened the first bone marrow transplant center in Nepal, and it's the only one in the country currently. We've done 5 transplants since August, and it's very cost effective as well, costing less than $5,000 US to do one transplant. We're also helping the Indian government. We're partnering with them and Home Hospice in Boise, Idaho, and we're starting a training and home hospice program for Madhya Pradesh, India, which is a state that has a population of over 71 million people. We'll be helping to provide the training as well as quality control of the program, and we're working on developing an electronic medical record system for them to use. We also host the premier cancer conference in the Northwest called the International Conference on Advances in Hematology and Oncology, or ICAO. We'll be holding it this year in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho in August. And we provide continuing education for the providers who attend, and we plan to have 200 attendees. Today is the first Northwest Cancer Summit. This is a new program of the Binaytara Foundation, and hopefully we will spark discussion, advocacy, and empowerment for cancer patients in Whatcom County and Skagit County. We also plan to start a child care support program for low-income parents with young children who need cancer treatment. I'd like to say a thank you to our sponsors. Peace Health United General is one of our platinum sponsors. Pfizer, Bristol Myers Squibb. Our gold sponsor is Hilson, and our silver sponsors, Merck and Janssen. We'd also like to thank our supporting partner, the Bellingham Brain Cancer Walk. They registered 10 people to attend this event. And I'd also like to thank our volunteers. Now, I'm very proud to introduce oncologist and board president, Dr. Vinay Shah.
Briley, thank you. Did we all get coffee? Not yet. All right. We have cookies, fruits, coffee, and water. So, I would like to thank all of you for being here. I think the stuff we are going to talk about is so critical for our society, for our patients, their family members. So I'll briefly introduce the foundation, what it does, and how we do things. So this is the foundation, Binaytara Foundation, that I established in 2007, 10 years ago, with my beautiful wife, Tara. Can you stand up and say hello to everybody, please? And we are 501c3 nonprofit. Our goal is to promote health and education in underserved communities. So this is our motto. Can anybody tell what it is? Well, if you answer questions right, you get chocolates. So, we'll have a few questions during my talk. So this pyramid concept we have. So as you know, the base of pyramid, it is very wide, and the top of pyramid is very narrow. The base of pyramid represents the patients, and the top represents the healthcare facilities, hospitals, doctors, nurses, and healthcare providers. We all know we have limited resources. Do you know of any community that has unlimited amount of resources? Do you know of any organization, any company that has unlimited amount of resources? No. So we have limited resources. So what we do is we train physicians, we train healthcare providers, we establish programs that can serve more patients. And this is how we are more impactful, more effective. So we established the first and the only bone marrow transplant center in Nepal in partnership with Nepalese government and with University of Illinois at Chicago. So in the past, when we did not have this transplant center in Nepal, if you have blood cancer, bone marrow failure, you don't have any option. Essentially, you die. Now, those patients have option. They can get bone marrow transplant right there in Nepal. And then you can imagine, this serves 25 million people. 25 million people. Huge population. So, now, question for you. What is the cost of bone marrow transplant in the United States? Raise your hand if you think $10,000. No? $250,000. That's great. Bridie, can you help it, please? So, I think there are 4 people who made correct answers. All right, so it costs $250,000, almost $200,000 to $300,000 for one transplant. It is huge, insane amount of money for one treatment, right? So it costs $5,000 to provide bone marrow transplant in Nepal. So it is accessible, affordable, and it makes sense from a social standpoint, right? Society can afford it. This is our first patient who received bone marrow transplant last year in August. And he had very aggressive lymph node cancer. He was fatigued, he had tiredness, he had fever, he was losing weight, not feeling well. So he was diagnosed with lymph node cancer and he was given chemotherapy followed by bone marrow transplant, and he's doing well. And we have transplanted a number of people. In fact, he is the physician. We brought him to Chicago and trained him. We trained a couple of other doctors and nurses. So the whole idea is to bring them here, provide them skills, send them back to their country or their community so they can provide care to the patients. We recently started free home hospice program. So essentially, patients who are enrolled in our program, they get free service. The doctors, the nurses, they go to the patient's home and provide free care. Do you know how much it costs us? $25 a day. $25 a day. Can you imagine any care here for $25? No. So it just tells you every single dollar goes a long way in providing care to these patients. And I believe none of us should die in pain. And as you know, we are all mortals. We are going to die. Is there anybody know who is immortal? No, right? So this should be a basic right for every single individual. Nobody should die in pain. Every single person should die with dignity, in peace, and free of pain. And this is exactly why we provide this service. There are some of the patients who are receiving hospice care. As you can see, this lady can spend good time with her grandchild and get treatment right there at home. Now, we have recently partnered with Indian government to establish home hospice program in India. This is going to be the first home hospice program in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Population, more than 70 million people. So we'll be helping numerous, hundreds and thousands of patients right there. It is going to be so impactful, not only for patients, but their family members. How do you feel when one of your family members is writhing in pain, is not feeling well? It not only impacts you, but every single individual in the family, right? So hospice is so important, so critical, such an important aspect of care for many patients. So this is the agreement we signed in November of last year. So we expect that program to be launched in May, so 3 months from now. And it will be a major program that will help thousands of patients. We also organized one of the largest conferences in Northwest. So this is the 5th conference we are organizing this year in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So we invite some of the top experts in the world. We bring people from Stanford, from Mayo Clinic, from Chicago, from MD Anderson, from all over the world. And we basically, the whole idea is to educate doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, and other healthcare providers so they can provide cutting-edge treatment to our patients. Because knowledge is power, right? So this is exactly what we do. Last year we had almost 175 people from 5 different countries. Very impactful, very effective program. Now this Cancer Summit, the whole idea is again to empower our patients, their family members, and general public so they can make right decisions. Now if you look at it, if you Google cancer, Dr. Google will have 1 million recommendations, right? Now, many of them are misleading. Many of them are fake. So that is why we need these kind of venues where healthcare professionals can talk to you directly, where you have an opportunity to ask them questions directly. So I think this is a kind of movement. This is not just one meeting. This is going to be a movement from Foundation. And we are going to organize these meetings on a regular basis. And again, the whole idea is to change the culture in the society, the way we look at things, the way we seek information. We are also planning on launching a major program in the state of Washington. So in April of this year, we'll be launching a statewide program whereby we provide childcare to the patients who are suffering from cancer. If you are 40-year-old and if you have 80-year-old son or daughter and you need chemotherapy, you are very stressed out, right? You have cancer, you're going through chemotherapy, you're going through CT scans, blood tests, PET scans, and the potential side effects of chemotherapy. On top of that, you don't know what to do with their child, right? So this program is going to help those patients who can't afford babysitter, who can't afford childcare. We are going to provide that to all over the state. So a return on investment from our projects, it has been more than anything else I've done in my life. Anything else. Because you can see lives being impacted. You can see lives being saved. You can see lives, the quality of life of people being improved. We partner with governments, we partner with nonprofits, we partner with individuals. We have a number of volunteers here. We partner with volunteers. We partner with different nonprofits to be more effective because we believe that partnership gives you strength, it gives you power. You can do more stuff when you partner with each other. If you go solo, you can't be as effective. And this is exactly what we do. So I'll show you this video that basically how we have an impact.
Binaytara home hospice program was started from January of this year, and till end of June, we have already enrolled 21 patients in Custom Valley, and distance varying from 4 to 14 kilometers from the hospital center. The purpose of this short video clip is to show the home visit by our staff to cancer patients at home. Also shown are expressions made by the patients and the relatives about their feelings and the home hospice care program.
This is a bike we bought for these people. Yeah.
बिरामीहरू यस्तो अवस्थामा छ राति कहिले 2 बजे कहिले 12 बजे दिउँसो अलिकति गाह्रो हुने थियो कि हामी अब एम्बुलेन्स बोलाउनु पर्ने ट्याक्सी बोलाउनु पर्ने बिरामीलाई लाने एकदमै गाह्रो हुने हामी लगिरहेको थियौँ गरिरहेको थियौँ अब बिरामीले एकदमै गाह्रो हुन्थ्यो जुन पीडा अब बिरामी भएपछि पीडा त केही छँदैछ त्यसपछि थप पीडा हुन्थ्यो अब अहिले यो अब नेसनल हस्पिटलबाट गर्नुभएछ हामीलाई हामीले जानकारी पायो यस्तो छ भनेर पनि जानकारी पायो त्यसपछि गणेशसँग हामी कन्ट्याक्ट गऱ्यौँ उहाँहरू आउनुहुन्छ गर्नुहुन्छ यो चाहिँ अब बिरामीलाई एकदमै सजिलो हुने हामीलाई लानु नपर्ने घरमै डक्टरहरू आउने हामीले अब भनौँ न एकदमै सजिलो हुने
अहिले हामी हस्पिटलदेखि धेरै टाढा छौँ बसै हाम्रो बुवालाई लिएर उहाँ जानु सम्भवै हुँदैन गाडीमा बस्न सक्नुहुन्न गाडीमा लिएर कति गाह्रो हुने त्यहाँ पीडा हुन्छ पीडा भइरहेको छ पीडा पनि हुन्छ त्यो घरमै आएर त्यो सुविधा हेरेर सजिलो भएको छ हामीलाई के अरे
हिँड्न नसक्दाखेरि हामीलाई जान अलि अप्ठ्यारो थियो अनि यहाँसम्म आएर तपाईँले दिनुभयो त्यसरी हामीलाई एकदमै राम्रो सजिलो भइरहेको छ औषधिहरू दिनुहुन्छ अनि चाहिने बेलामा हस्पिटलमै लगेर हामी हस्पिटलमै पनि उपचार गराउँछौँ घरमा आइदिनुहुन्छ भनेको बेलामा आइदिनुहुन्छ फोनबाट सुझाव दिनुहुन्छ क्वेसनहरू हामी फोनमा सोद्धाखेरि पनि उहाँले राम्ररी यसो गर्नुहोस् उसो गर्नुहोस् भनेर राम्ररी फोनबाट पनि भन्नुहुन्छ राति 12-1 बजे पनि उहाँले राम्रैसँग यसरी यसो गर्नु पऱ्यो उसो गर्नु पऱ्यो भने फोनबाट पनि हामीलाई सुझाव दिनुहुन्छ
प्राब्लमै थियो हाम्रो घर होइन अनि प्रब्लमको समस्याले गर्दाखेरि हामीले त कोठा सरेर बसेर बस्नु पऱ्यो कोठा लिएर होइन अनि बाबुलाई अब डक्टरहरू घरमा पनि आएर हेर्नुहुन्थ्यो अनि मुखबाट खानु सकेन सिजर भएर बस्यो अनि मुखबाट खानु नसकेको भएर अनि बाबुलाई यहाँ लिएर चाहिँ उपचारको लागि हामीले अब
यदि उहाँलाई अलिक गाह्रो हुन्छ भएको बेला चाहिँ हामी उहाँलाई कल गर्छौँ कल गरिसकेपछि उहाँले अब यसो गर्नुहोस् भन्नुहुन्छ अनि त्यो भइसकेपछि भने उहाँ आफै आउनुहुन्छ आएर फेरि गर्नुहुन्छ अस्ति एकजनादेखि पनि हुनुभयो अनि उहाँ आउँदाखेरि आफै नसक्नेपछि उहाँ ठुलोलाई पनि उहाँले फोनबाट यस्तो यस्तो समस्या छ यस्तो यस्तो समस्या छ के गर्ने भन्दाखेरि उहाँले फोनबाटै पहिला सोधेर उसको उपचारहरू गर्नुहुन्छ
So this is what we do. So essentially we partner with individuals and organizations to promote health and education in different communities. So now I'm going to talk about immunotherapy. That is my next talk. How many of you have heard of immunotherapy? Can you raise your hands? Most of you, all of you, almost all of you. That is great. So as you can see, we have a number of immunotherapy drugs which are available in market now. And our immune system, it protects our body. Our body is under constant external and internal threats. When you walk around, when you are here, sitting here, there are bugs all around us, right? There are viruses, bacteria, flus, all kinds of external threats. And occasionally, some of your own cells might turn bad. You get cancer. So our immune cells start fighting all those bugs and cancer cells and all those threats we have to our body. So essentially, our body is more like a war zone. They're a constant fight. which you would not know, right? Because they're so effective in protecting our body. So let's see this. So we have
In cancer treatment, some doctors hailing it as the biggest breakthrough since chemotherapy. Fred Fletcher just spoke with medical experts in London, so tell us more about this, Fred.
Yeah, it certainly is very interesting. Of course,
this is from London.
careful when we speak about cancer treatment. What sort of a breakthrough it will be. But I can tell you, the experts that they are very excited about what they're seeing out of the study that comes here from the UK. This is called immunotherapy. And essentially,
And this is from here.
Right now, medical science making real progress in cancer treatment. Breakthroughs in immunotherapy are
Oh,
saving and extending lives. The drugs boosting the body's own immune system.
So essentially all I want to show you is it is a breaking news. Immunotherapy is a breaking news. Everybody is talking about it now. So question is, so for example, as you know, until now, we had chemotherapy that would kill cancer, right? So we give chemotherapy to our patients, and the chemotherapy drug kills cancer cells. At the same time, it also causes tremendous amount of collateral damage. The patients have nausea, they have vomiting, fatigue, weight loss, hair loss, diarrhea, potential for damage to kidneys, liver, heart, all those vital organs. So it is very toxic, but it is effective, and that is why we have been giving this. We utilize radiation therapy that targets the cancer cells directly, but it also causes a lot of collateral damage. I have seen patients who have had their whole lung affected by radiotherapy. I have had patients who had another cancer from radiation therapy that they received to treat another cancer in the past. We have surgeries, right? So these are traditional therapies. We utilize surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy to treat cancer, right? Now, question for you. Did we have immunotherapy 10 years ago? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, great. You guys are so smart. I don't think we needed this talk. All right. Bridie, can you here? There are a few in the back. So yes, we had immunotherapy 10 years ago. So if you look at this, more than 150 years ago, we knew about the role of immunotherapy in containing cancer. And as a matter of fact, we have been using immunotherapy for lymphoma for more than 10 years. We have been using immunotherapy to treat bladder cancer. We have been treating immunotherapy to treat melanomas. So this is not a new treatment. It is just that there is more media attention, and there is more treatment options we have for so many cancers. So how do immunotherapy work? So there are different kinds of immunotherapy medications. Some of them are antibodies. They directly kill the cancer cells. Some of them is like if you want to drive a car, if you want to go from one place to another, what do you need? You need a steering wheel, you need a gas pedal, and you need a brake, right? So you can push the brake whenever you have to slow down. Recently, we have found that cancer cells, the immune cells, also have something called parking brake. So if you are parking a brake on the car on parking brake, will it drive effectively? No. So these new treatments, what they do is they release the parking brake. So immune cells start finding those cancer cells and start killing them. It is so impactful, so effective, and so precise. So they identify the cancer cells because the cancer cells look very different. They do not look like normal cells. And we have a number of medicines that I showed you earlier which target those those cancer cells. Now, question for you. Immunotherapy is effective in lung cancer. Yes or no? Immunotherapy is effective in melanomas. Yes or no? Immunotherapy is effective in bladder cancer. Immunotherapy is effective in lymphoma. And it is effective in all of this. So, clearly we have too many correct answers. Where is Brian? All right, perfect. Yes. Well, I think from next time I got to have a little bit more difficult questions. So as you can see, immunotherapy. So in lung cancer, in the past with chemotherapy, 1 year survival was less than 25%. And now with immunotherapy, it is more than 40%. It is substantial improvement in the 1 year overall survival. So I have seen a number of patients who are surviving for a year, 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years. It is amazing. It has changed the paradigm of treatment of cancer. The cancer is treated so differently, and now cancer is perceived differently. It is more like a chronic disease, like you have diabetes or arthritis. I have a number of patients who come to my cancer center, get treatment, go home, spend the time with family members, their grandchildren, go golfing and fishing, and have a good quality of life. It has truly changed the way cancer is treated. Another study, as you can see, 1 year survival from less than 40% to more than 50%. This is another Keytruda. You have heard of Keytruda, pembrolizumab. This medication, it decreases the risk of death by 50%. It is something that has never been seen before in lung cancer. It is absolutely amazing the way things have changed. So another study, it shows almost 30% decrease in death with this immunotherapy. Not only in lung cancer, as you can see in melanomas, the risk of death has gone down by 60%. Isn't that amazing? By 60% with immunotherapy compared to traditional chemotherapy. We see similar findings in bladder cancer. Immunotherapy improves survival compared to chemotherapy. And this is the most famous man who has benefited from immunotherapy. You guys know him, right? Okay. So, but I can tell you, as I said earlier, I have a number of patients in my cancer center who are doing so well. They not only have better survival, they have good quality of life. It is coming to cancer center every 2 or every 3 weeks is like a chore. They come there, get infusion, and go home and spend good time with their family. So, question for you. If I give immunotherapy to somebody today, and if I check a CAT scan a month from now, and the tumor, the cancer size grew from 1 inch to 1.2 inches, does that mean immunotherapy is effective? So the tumor size grew from 1 inch to 1.2 inches.
Depends on the rate of growth of the tumor previously.
I'm sorry?
Depends on the rate of growth of the tumor previously, right?
Well,
How fast was it growing before?
well, the tumor was, for example, it was growing in the similar fashion from 0.7 to 0.9, then 1 inch, and now we give immunotherapy. And the tumor has grown to 1.2 inches a month later. Does that mean the cancer has grown? It is growing in size, it is progressing, and treatment is not being effective?
What's its normal rate? What's its normal rate of growth if it's not treated?
So there is no normal rate of growth. So cancer behaves very differently in different people. In some patients, cancer grows like fire. In some patients, it grows very slowly. I have had patients who would have cancer and they'll be fine for months and years. So there is no normal growth rate of cancer because cancer biology is different. Every individual who has cancer behaves differently compared to another individual. Somebody was raising hand in this area? No? Okay.
It doesn't mean that it's, don't embarrass me, it doesn't mean that it's not getting better, just because it's grown a little.
Okay.
Doesn't it always, like, maybe jump some before it backs off? I mean, does that mean, I don't believe that that doesn't mean it's not working.
All right.
You asked your question, that's fine.
Yes, great. So Mary thinks that immunotherapy may still be effective in that particular patient, right? So how about the second option, immunotherapy is not effective? If you think it is not effective, raise your hands. All right. However, so many of you are not sure. That's why nobody raised hands.
Not me, I stepped up.
All right.
Out there.
So when we give immunotherapy, we see 4 different patterns. So group of patients may have tumor shrinking after we give them immunotherapy. Some of them, we give immunotherapy and the tumor size stays the same. Some of them may still be responding, but their tumor may grow a little bit. And some patients, again, immunotherapy may not be effective. All right? So I'll show you this picture. For example, this patient received immunotherapy for melanoma. 3 months later, this is how it looked like from here to here. Looks like cancer has worsened, right? Cancer has gotten bigger. But then 4 months later, looked like this. At 72 weeks, this is how it looked. And at 108 weeks, this is how it looked. Isn't that interesting? So they're very different than what you see with chemotherapy and radiation therapy. Now, how about the side effects? Is immunotherapy holy water? Right? So, it does cause some collateral damage in some people. Not everybody is without side effect. It has the potential to cause rashes on the skin. It can cause lung problems. Some of my patients can have pneumonias from this. It has a potential to cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and inflammation of bowel. It can also cause problem with glands, your hormone levels. It has a potential to cause problem with your brain or nerves. It can also cause damage to the liver. It can cause damage to eyes. So every time patient comes to me, we give them a sheet that basically they have to fill and tell me what symptoms they got. Do they have any problem with their vision? Do they have any problem with their the nausea and vomiting, or numbness, tingling, or weakness? And this is the reason we ask these questions, because we want to identify problems so we can treat it. However, despite all these side effects, if you look at it, well, it is difficult to see, but serious side effects are less than 10% with immunotherapy compared to almost 70% with chemotherapy in this study. So while all those side effects can occur, the risk of side effects are much smaller with immunotherapy compared to traditional chemotherapy for many diseases. All right. Again, that is not true for every single case. So do not, so I don't want to have kind of very generalized, I don't want to generalize very aggressively. Now, cost of immunotherapy. What is it? $50,000 a year? Raise your hand if you think it is $50,000 a year. No? $100,000 a year. All right? 3 hands. $500,000 a year. one hand. 2, $1 million a year. This is very expensive treatment. $1 million. $1 million. How will society afford it? We have great treatments. These are effective treatments. But we as patients, as family members, as physicians, as nurses, as healthcare professionals, we need to come up with a plan whereby we can afford these molecules. We can't say no to these drugs because they save lives. But we have to talk about how society can afford it, because we are all going to get bankrupt. Our society simply can't afford this. This is the cost of immunotherapy right now in the United States. $174 billion. Isn't that outrageous? Just immunotherapy. That does not include the cost of labs, CAT scan or PET scan, doctor's visit, hospitalization, ER visits, and other drugs. So in future, we are going to talk about these issues more and more in our summits, because the whole idea is to create a movement, because we need to take control of our healthcare system. As healthcare professionals, as patients, general public of this country, it is our responsibility to say, hey, we have these drugs which are highly effective. How can we afford it? Is it the problem with pharmaceuticals? Is it the problem with government regulation? Is it the problem with hospitals? Where is the problem? So with this, I would like to conclude my talk. Thank you. And I would like to invite Aaron Weinberg to talk about where to look for news. As I say, Dr. Google, will give you millions of search results. So the question is, what is reliable? So Aaron is a reporter at Skagit Valley Herald, and he's going to educate us what to look for and where to look for.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for leaving us on a cliffhanger there. So I'm going to be talking about fake news. Anybody heard about that lately? All right. It's kind of hard to define fake news because there's a lot of it, and it varies from very extreme to, it might even be hard for me to figure out unless I were to really check the sources and stuff on that. So here's the best kind of definition that I came up when I was researching this, and you all can read it, I'm sure. Fake news hit the spotlight obviously during the 2016 presidential campaign. People really weren't talking about it before then. The purpose of these stories really is just to drive up web traffic to that website. They get ad revenue from it, and oftentimes, especially during the last year, it pushes a political agenda. I wrote a story about it for the Skagit Valley Herald, something that hit home for our community. This family was affected by a fake news story. The woman there was the ex-wife of a man who accidentally shot himself. The story was published on another website, and that website had lots of real information on it, but also tons of fake information. It showed a picture of another man holding a gun, and I think the headline was something like he had killed himself because Donald Trump won the presidency, and that was all false. And in the story, I had examples about how to spot fake news and stuff, which I'll talk about. All right, why does it matter? It will leave you misinformed. We're talking about cancer and medical stuff here. I've seen fake medical news where if someone were to read it and believe it, they might think they have a problem when they really don't. It erodes trust in journalism. Obviously, that's kind of going on right now if you guys pay attention to the news. The reason why I got into journalism was it was real idealistic of me. It's really to serve democracy, keep the government in check from just flat out lying to you. It kind of is what separates the U.S. from a dictatorship almost, because they control the media. And kind of like North Korea, I guess, would be a good example of that. That's legitimate fake news all around. I kind of just said this, it can lead readers making bad decisions without knowing all the facts. And fake news, fake medical news is becoming more prevalent. When I was doing my research for this presentation, I saw a fake medical journal when it looked very legitimate, and it would be very hard to tell it apart from others. But if you were to go through some basic fact checking, like all trained journalists will do, then you would be able to figure out that it's kind of nonsense. Here's a really easy example to point out about medical stuff. It's this story. It's on Breitbart, which I don't recommend getting news from there. Yeah, it's by Milo, who was just fired from there. Actually, if you guys have heard of him, very right wing. But this does take actual studies. It takes a very small part of that study and kind of zones it out and turns it into a big deal where women are unattractive and crazy. And this has a lot of comments on it, so a lot of people read it and thought it was real. But I think the next portion of this is to talk about how to spot it for yourself. And it's really it's difficult if you're not trained to learn how to spot fake news. I mean, that last example is pretty obvious to figure out, but there's more nuances to it. Journalists will pick out a fact, a claim that maybe one of their sources said, and then do some research, figure out if it was true or not, and then we can publish it. So I'll teach you some tips right here. Basically, the way I would fact check an article that I'm going to write. This is an easy one. Does it have a byline? If it has a byline on it, even if it has a picture of the person writing it, it lends accountability to that person. If they're wrong, then you can call them out on it. If it doesn't have a byline, then who knows who wrote it, and it may not be accurate. Does the website you're looking at have a contact page? Can you get a hold of somebody that works at this news website? If not, then it's probably not a real news website. Does the article have quotes? Every article I write, I'm interviewing multiple sources, and I'm putting in the most important quotes into the story. I'm citing the experts, especially when I write medical stories. Because I don't know a lot about the medical field, and so I will have to attribute information to those people. If the story you're reading has it doesn't have any quotes, doesn't have any good sources in it, then it's probably not a very well put together article. So fake news stories, they are often going to use real images of events and then just kind of write something that maybe didn't even relate to it, or write a little bit about the story and then kind of write something that's fake right after that. So you can check to see where these images actually came from. And I didn't learn about this too long ago either, was that you can reverse Google image search an image. And it's basically going to Google Images, and then you can upload the image that you just the fake image that you suspect, and it'll show you where it was from. It might link back to another news website. It might link back to something that happened like 10 years ago. and they're just recycling it for their own purposes of getting more clicks, getting more money. And then if you're finding something that not very many news media or no one in the news is reporting on, then it might not be true as well. If you think you found a really great source that has something that no one has investigated or anything like that, then it might not be true. So if you find something cool that you think that no one else is reporting on, then just do a quick Google search, see if anybody's doing anything on that, and you might find out that it's fake. This one's a little bit more difficult to tell on your own if you're not a trained journalist. Watch for words that indicate an opinion, a bias or a slant. If the writer or the reporter is using very opinionated words or without backing it up from a real source, like someone you're quoting or an expert, then it is probably not a real news article. You can check the URL. This one's pretty easy. A lot of fake news stories or a lot of fake news websites will actually be www.nbc.com and then have .co at the end, and that is not NBC. It's something else. So if you see it that .co or .su, you might want to double check to make sure that that's an actual news website.
What's .su?
I actually don't know what it stands for. I've just seen it around. Apologies. Headlines. This has been very prevalent for the last few years. Something like, you won't believe this shocking thing that this person did, and then you'll click on it and give them a little bit of money just for clicking on it. So just don't click on those headlines, really. It's kind of the downfall of journalism at this point. But if you do happen to click on one of those, does the actual article have anything to do with the headline? Because oftentimes they really don't, and it's very misleading. So if the headline is meant to shock and just it's a big cliffhanger, then it's probably not going to be a real news story. The headlines that we have at the Skagit Valley Herald will tell you what the article is about. You can decide if you want to click on them or not. We're not going to try to fake you out and just try to make more money off that. It's not very ethical journalism. So those are most of the tips right there. When I set up this presentation, I called several people working at Skagit Valley Hospital and Island Hospital, and they put together. They gave me all these websites to find the most reliable sources of cancer news and updates that you may want to use. I didn't include sites like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, but they may have some medical news on there as well. Those are legitimate news websites, whether you agree or not. So I'm open to questions about. We're going to do a panel right now. Okay, so I'll take questions during the panel then. Thanks, everybody.
So now we'll have panel session. So Ronnie is going to pass the mic to people who have questions, and you can ask questions. Me and Aaron, can you come over here, please?
Does it make noise? Oh, perfect. Question, I have a couple of quick questions. One is about, are there other applications for these immunotherapies? And two, is one of the side effects autoimmunity?
Yes, so immunotherapies cause autoimmune dysfunction in many patients. And in fact, when I say hormonal imbalances of thyroid glands, or sometimes inflammation of bowel or pneumonia, it is all inflammation occurring from autoimmune process. And it is one of the major side effects of immunotherapy. Having said that, most of the time we can manage these symptoms with some medications. And most of my patients are able to handle it pretty well. Now, the second question was other applications. So for example, rituximab that we have been using for lymphoma for the last 10-15 years. We use it now for a variety of illnesses, such as arthritis. So arthritis can be treated with immunotherapy. Isn't that amazing? So now we have treatment which has been approved for cancer treatment. You can utilize the same treatment for arthritis treatments. So a number of illnesses, specifically autoimmune illnesses, can be treated with immunotherapy too.
I have a question about alternative processes that may be explored which weren't mentioned today. These are pretty much scientifically based in regards to getting a drug, getting it into the patient and seeing how it works. And I'm wondering if there is more going out there on education about alternatives to some of the toxicity that is associated with some of these drugs. And I know that's a really touchy area to enter because there can be so much fake news, so to speak, about some of these tremendous items that can help you get cured from things. And I'm just wondering if the medical establishment is exploring anything in those arenas that has proved to be helpful and yet not so toxic.
Very important question. So that is another topic we are going to talk about in different summits. And we will have these regular summits that is going to address complementary therapy or alternative therapy. We are going to talk about the role of diet in cancer. We are going to talk about financial issues in cancer. So yes, this area is being widely studied right now, and there is definitive evidence that complementary therapy helps many patients. For example, yoga and Tai Chi and all those meditations, they have been known to improve quality of life in many of those patients. So yes, I do recommend this to many of my patients. It is useful. So in the past, we had like either chemo or alternative therapy, no more. So we want to take good things from either areas and help our patients. Because our goal is not for or against alternative therapy or chemotherapy. Our goal is to help patients. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps. I just feel that we really concentrate on scientific stuff, which I really admire and think is helpful. But having practiced a number of different therapies and dynamics throughout my life, I found them to be quite helpful and quite effective. And I just think that we don't hear very much about, and it's up to the individual, of course, and that can be the hardest part for some people because you have to change and look at your lifestyle and see what you can do to make it a stronger resistance rather than opening it up to all the various things that come our way.
Absolutely. So in fact, it is being talked about more often now than ever before. As a matter of fact, Cancer Center in Bellingham, here in East Health, we do have massage therapy and yogas and all that. Even in Sidrawuli, where I practice mostly, we are now working on art therapy and music therapy and some other complementary therapies. Because we know it is all about helping patients. And some of these techniques can help them with their stress, their anxiety, their pain, and their fatigue, and overall well-being. So it is useful, it is effective, but it needs to be provided by people who have expertise. So now, that is another thing we need to look at, because as you know, in community, there may be so many other people who may claim to be the expert but may not have actual the formal education, formal training, and that is not going to be helpful either.
Thank you, Doctor, for your talk. I thought it was very informative. One of the things I was wondering was that I thought you stopped your talk just a few minutes too early. You can tell us how to rein in the cost spiral that's going on in this country. And I wonder if your experience in other countries and in the United States, you have some thoughts on how we can control the costs for medical care.
Absolutely. So, well, I wanted to bring that up. So we continue to have discussion about it, not only now in this meeting, but even in future meetings. And my goal is to invite some of the executives from hospitals, pharmaceuticals, insurance companies, non-profit representatives, civil societies, and general American public. Because all of us need to talk about it to see how we can address this issue, which is tremendous. I have seen patients going bankrupt. So as a matter of fact, the risk of bankruptcy is 260% more in cancer patients than anybody else. And that is primarily because of the cost of care. It is so unfortunate, and it really hurts me, because it's not only about patients. Patients' kids, their family members, how are they going to live? So I came to this country from Nepal. I'm originally from Nepal. And I visit different countries, Nepal, India, and a number of countries all the time. So when I first moved here, I trained in New York City for my residency. I was amazed to see that the medicines that would cost 10 cents would cost $10 here. I'm like, how is it possible? So I was amazed to see that the Tylenol that cost 50 cents in Walmart would cost $10 when it is given by a nurse in the hospital. I have not seen any industry where there is so much of jack up in prices of medications. Do you know of any industry where you can jack up prices by 10,000%? Can you? No. But those are the issues we need to talk about, we as society, and see how we can save American healthcare. Because we need to move beyond this era, which is highly corrupt. It is within the hands of few people, and that needs to be addressed. And that is exactly what I'm going to do in these future summits. But I plan to invite reporters. I plan to invite executives from pharmaceuticals, hospitals, insurance companies, and others. I don't have a good answer at this point, though.
My question is, would you also include people that treat from a holistic and naturopathic end of it? Because I believe there are plant compounds that exist that are similar to some of the compounds that are creating in pharmaceuticals. I just believe that more research needs to be done, and I believe that there are viable products that already exist on the planet without having to be created in the lab. I think it would benefit everybody in the circle of cancer to kind of work together to bring that in.
That is another great question. So, as a matter of fact, some of the chemo drugs, they come from plants. Some of the antibiotics come from plants. So, it is not that the medications that we give in our clinic, they all are manufactured, well, they come through the lab, it needs to be processed. But they origin from plants, some of them. So yes, that is definitely an active area of research, and we need to find molecules which are effective, at the same time not too toxic, whether it is from plants or are created in labs.
What do you think of interferon for immunotherapy?
Yes, interferon is another important immunotherapeutic treatment. for many cancers. And in fact, it's been used for a long time. Now the use of interferon is less common because we have so many other effective medications. And some of the interferons cause a lot of side effects. But definitely they have been effective in containing many cancers in some patients.
We have time for one more question.
Thank you for this. Without sounding too combative, do your silver and platinum sponsors make the drugs of which you speak, and do they share your concern for out-of-control costs?
So yes, some of the sponsors that we have, they make some of the immunotherapy medications. Now, I work with people who come to me and show me what molecules they have, and I look at the science, actual scientific evidence to before I prescribe any drug. Having said that, they are not the decision makers in pharmaceutical industry. Decision makers are the CEOs. Decision makers are the major investors that control 70% of the shares. So our job is not really to vilify those people who are on the ground. Our job is to work with people who are decision makers and see how we can work together and make it effective, affordable, and more accessible to our patients.